The sky turned black, the stars fell down. United we stand, but we're losing ground. One world beneath the iron fist. Voices silenced, they cease to resist. Echoes of hope in the darkening night. Fading whispers of a long-lost light. Rise up, hear the call to arms. In this storm of chaos, we'll find our charms. Together we'll fight through the ashes and dust. A phoenix reborn in our hearts' purest trust. The sirens wail through the desolate towns. Once proud nations painted in the scars of the crown. A single army marching on our dreams. Unity forged in despair, or so it seems. Nothing left but shadows drifting away as the last embers of freedom decay. Rise up, hear the call to arms. In this storm of chaos, we'll find our charms. Together we'll fight through the ashes and dust. A phoenix reborn in our hearts' purest trust. One global army, together we stand. In the fall of the world, we'll make our last stand.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Into the Red Rabbit Hole. I'm Nighthawk, your host. I got Eric patiently waiting in the back rooms, in the scary, spooky back rooms, waiting to come on, and we're going to get into the thick of things, but I'm going to go ahead and do a disclaimer tonight because I got a couple short videos I want to play for you all to help you kind of guide you through what we're going to be talking about tonight. So that being said, the copyright disclaimer is this channel, Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast channel, and all the podcasts on a channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of the owner, but contends that it falls under the fair use, which is the Copyright Act of 1976, which makes allowances under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances are made for fair use for the purposes of criticism, parody, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, and entertainment value. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, otherwise known as the Fair Use, and also all of our music that we use on this channel is our own creation through the Donna app, and I highly recommend it. It's a very good app. Even if you get it temporarily and use it for a period of time, you can create your own awesome music. And I did that opening credits song The words in there are done for a specific reason, and also the caricature that I developed for that cover is a representation of something that I guess you're going to have to research that and investigate that on your own. But I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out if you listen to the words of the song. Okay. Anyways, that being said, I'm going to take this down, and hopefully everybody's doing good tonight. And I'm going to go through some of the topics and stuff that we're going to go through tonight while Eric deals with everybody in the chat and says hello. And I've got your comments up on the screen, but it's so small I can't read it. So, but anyways, we're going to go really in depth into a couple different areas tonight. We're going to cover the Men in Black. We're going to cover a little bit about the Rh negative blood type. Okay. We're going to cover a little bit about the simulation theory and the matrix, and basically what the Men in Black have to do with it. And we're going to cover the demiurge a little bit and its connection to the matrix and everything. So that being said, we've got quite a lengthy discussion to start tonight. But first off, as I try to do every podcast, I try to bring out the realization of things, and just basically what some groups or individuals in groups are trying to infiltrate and give us disinformation. Okay. I noticed that this post was going around saying that this was an actual trail camera photo. Okay. Come on. Why is that taking so long? All right. I got to take one of those comments down. All right. There we go. Yeah, don't worry about posting the comments, though. They're up on the screen in the corner, so we'll go with that. But let me see here. Let me try to get this picture to come up again. All right, this one. This was put out by, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, Cryptid University. I've never called anybody out in the carpet before, but this thing is AI created. Okay, I did a search on it, and the only thing that came up with this photograph and several others is that it was AI created. It gave me the location of the creation, who created it, and who's been posting it. And I just want to put it out there that, you know what, sometimes with some of these groups out there, everybody on social media, you need to be careful how quick you hit that join button. Okay. Because this is the kind of crap that I tell everybody on a daily basis that is going to ruin the cryptid field and the paranormal field for that same matter, and the supernatural. Okay. So, because it's all pretty much connected. So if you see this picture going around, it's completely AI. It's completely fake. It is not a trail camera picture whatsoever. So, and I wouldn't recommend following a group that would promote this. Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, I don't know the people personally, so I'm not going to continue on with this, but we need to, as group administrators and moderators and stuff, we need to really focus on the made up stuff that's going on nowadays, because it is literally going to ruin our groups and our communities as far as that goes in the research and investigating field of anything. It could be mysterious deaths. It could be whatever. If anything's made up and falsified because of AI, it can ruin it, plain and simple, no matter what the field of study is. Okay. And cryptid is just one of the many. So that being said, I'm going to take that down. So just be on the lookout for stuff like that is what my concern is. Okay. Also, we touched a little bit Friday night into the missing years and stuff, and you know, I started realizing that there's a lot of things going on prior in history too, prior till the time of Constantine. Okay, when Constantine took over and he made the Catholicism and Christianity a big thing, and he put the paganism and the Roman Empire underground, which is still present today. Okay. Um, Something changed not only in that time frame, okay, say 300 to 500 years um, during that time frame of Constantine, but something else changed. Okay. And we find that when we go that far back in history, we find a lot of reports of men in black. Okay. Now, hear me out. Not too many people know that, some of the first reports out there of men in black were around 1300 AD, somewhere around there. Okay. 1340, I think it was. And I've always said the men in black are a combination of things, but here lately, um, I've been following the Men in Black reportings quite frequently and storing up information on them. Here is a photograph out of Alaska, out of Anchorage, okay, of a supposed Men in Black visiting a receptionist at a business. And she literally, in the video, pulls out a semi automatic handgun. That's how much this guy intimidated her. But he merely did a hand gesture, and I'm going to show you what that hand gesture is to make her put the weapon down. Okay. The hand gesture is a very, very it's magic with a K. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to show you what he did. Okay. And we'll leave it at that. All right. He's standing at the counter. Okay. If you noticed, he's got hands at the side. Okay. Here, I'm going to put the picture back up. Okay. His hands are at the side. And then when she comes forward, see his hands on the counter? They're both flat palm down on the counter. Okay. As he's observing her coming over, walking around the counter with her handgun, by the way, and a camera. Okay. So, anyways, the hand signal that he used starts off flat hand down, palm down, okay, about 6 inches above the counter, where his hands were on the counter. And then he turns his hand sideways and he merely puts his hand down on the counter, the whole time keeping eye contact with her. Okay. She automatically responds to that. Okay. And she puts the handgun down on the counter opposite of them, about a 45-degree angle from them, on this side of them. Okay. And she turns and walks towards her purse, opens up her purse off the floor, grabs her camera out of the purse, and proceeds to walk around the counter and proceeds to walk up to him. And then they both walk out the front doors of the business together. Okay. These types of occurrences with men in black happen all the time. Okay. All the time. So, is it magic? or is it just mind control? It's literally mind control. Okay. There was a point in my educational process, let's say the least, when I was dealing with the dark arts, that I used to be able to mind sync with people. When I was in seventh grade, I used to sit in the back of class and I used to literally look at the person's the kid that was up at the chalkboard, the back of their head, and I would literally put a thought into their head of an answer, and the answer I would make sure would be the wrong answer that they would write out on the chalkboard. Okay, that is literally what this is. This is literally mind manipulation and mind control. Okay, this is something that takes a lot of practice. Okay, unless you have divine or demonic energy. Okay. So, that being said, that key being said, are the men in black flesh and blood? I think there are some that are flesh and blood. Okay. I think there are some that are what people would call alien, maybe even alien hybrid. Okay. But I do believe 100% that they are literally controlled by the darkness, by evil. Okay. Literally. Okay. So, would I put them in the same category as, say, an alien? I would not. And this is just my opinion and my research, okay? I would not. I would put them more in the category of interdimensional or supernatural. And that's the only categories I would put them in. The flesh and blood ones that you see that look more human, because clearly you can see this guy. I'm sorry, but does that look human to you? Or does that look like an elongated skull? Okay. So clearly, this guy is definitely something a little more different than just your typical alien or typical man in black. Okay. He has got a supernatural presence about him. And I've always had the feeling, I've always wanted to make the correlation with the whole fallen angels thing and the men in black. I believe they're one and the same. I believe the being that visited me a couple times outside my window, and you all know because we've all talked about it before, I believe he was a fallen angel and he was also a men in black. Okay, because he had a long black trench coat on. Okay, so, you know, this guy obviously has the ability to do certain special things to people, to make them, to convince them to do things. Okay, on a supernatural level. Okay, there is something to be said about connecting the supernatural with the physical realm here lately, and it all has to do going back to 2008 when CERN activated their Hadron Collider and started messing with the timelines and portals. Okay. How many of you know, and I'm just going to put this out there, and then I'll entertain some questions and comments and stuff about the Men in Black. But how many of you know that Iraq held the burial remains of King Gilgamesh, okay, and several other known artifacts that we recovered, okay, that the then Secretary of State, I'm just going to give her initials, HC, wanted to recover, okay, because of a certain bloodline, okay, plain and simple. The Enlil bloodline, okay. So, that being said, how many of you know that Azazel, the demon Azazel, is buried in Iran, underneath the ground in northern Iran? And it just so happens they carpet bombed northern Iran. How many of you can make these connections, that these things that are transpiring today, that we cannot trust anybody in authority? And I'm not saying that to be rebellious. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm saying that to be protective of humanity. Okay. Because the real humanity is trapped within this prison cell, but we don't know that it's a prison because it's we're so used to the way we go to work, we buy things, we pay taxes, taxes upon taxes upon taxes, we're so used to having to want things and to buy things in this cycle. We don't see what happens to the missing children. We don't see what happens to the missing people. We don't see half the cattle mutilations, animal mutilations going on, because these same entities, these same SOBs here, okay, SOBs in black here, are the ones that are controlling all this. Think about it. Okay. Why would CERN be helping out certain family bloodlines to open up Azazel's tomb that he was buried in? And it specifically talks in the Bible that Azazel was tossed within a pit that had jagged, edged, sharp spear and knife like rocks within it. Okay. And the location where it was bombed is described in that manner. So, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to bring forth this demonic? See, that's where it gets a little bit confusing, because what everybody calls demonic, I know it as reptilian, men in black, and bloodlines. I don't picture it as a demon, okay, with horns. Okay. Now, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, you're going to see depictions all over the place of what we see. Okay. Just like these. Okay. Actuality is more like this. Okay. The picture that's the chat is covering right now on the bottom part, that is what has been known to be seen called butterfly people, also known as angels. Think about it. Okay. But this is a certain sect of higher beings, higher vibrational beings, that can make themselves translucent so humanity can't see them every moment of the day, except when they expose themselves to help or rescue somebody, which is why a lot of people report seeing butterfly people, and during like hurricanes and storms or tornadoes or wartime, protecting them. Okay. And immediately afterwards, these SOBs show up. The men in black. So you have two opposing factions right there. Okay. And it's like I've said from the beginning, when we're dealing with the higher vibrational beings, whether you call them interdimensional, whether you call them angelic, divine, whatever you want to call them, they are still supernatural beings, okay, that have certain abilities that mankind doesn't have, okay? And some of them are good and some of them are bad. That's why we have reports of angels and we have reports of demons over history. We have reports of butterfly people and we have reports of jinn, because it's all connected, literally. It's all connected, okay? So men in black are the same thing, except they're the darker ones, okay? There are some of the men in black that basically want to help out humanity, okay, by letting go bits and pieces of information, okay? But the majority of them, they don't care whether you live or die. They're there to silence you and to make you conform, and that's pretty much it. Now, this is just from my research. There have been sightings all around. Here is one instance that I want to bring up. Sorry, I have a fruit fly buzzing me. He wants my coffee. Anyways, this is what the demiurge is described to look like. Okay? A lion's head on a snake body. Now, what do you suppose throughout biblical history could correlate to that? Lucifer, the snake in the Garden of Eden. Okay? But at the same time, it's also disclosing that it's the divine bloodline because of the lion's head. Because who was the Lion of Judah? Think about it. So you're talking, it's literally depicting the divine bloodline. One of them. Okay? Not all of them, one of them. Which you all know I refer to as the demiurge. Because in Gnosticism, it depicts the demiurge as being the false god of this world, which is literally what Lucifer was translated in the Bible. Okay? That Christ told him when Jesus was walking in this world that basically you are not only the prince of this world, but you are the god of this world. In other words, he acknowledged that the demiurge, that Lucifer was the god of this world. Okay? But only for a period of time. Because the real Heavenly Father, the real God of this world and all worlds, the Creator, which is described in the Bible, called the Creator. He's not called God. He's called the Heavenly Father, or he's called the Creator. Okay? So we have that depiction going on, which is Enlil, a representation of Enlil. Okay? And Anu, that bloodline. Anu is Enlil's father. Okay? So you can find correlations throughout history and throughout the mythology on every continent. Okay? And also, there was just recently a report released. In fact, I should have downloaded that one too. I think I sent it to you, Eric, on Messenger, of the Russian defense minister talking about, what he, what they've been doing with the Anunnaki. So I'm not sure if we can get a chance to upload that or not. I forget how long it was, but anyways, I'm going to play a short video for you all. Okay. I'm going to give my voice a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss it. Okay. Let me see, which one do I want to play? Let me see. I'm going to play two videos. Okay. One of them is going to be 8 minutes long. The other one, the first one I'm going to play is going to be one that's a minute and 20 some seconds long. Okay. That'll give Eric time and I time to drink some coffee and to answer questions or get ready to answer questions. But here we go. Makes you wonder. Okay. I got one more video I want to play for you. This one's 8 minutes long. Okay. And she's very, very thorough in her research. And I think she's going to surprise a lot of people. She's not very well known as a researcher, but I think that Tajana is going to really become something in the future with a lot of this conspiracy theory making sense to people, because she literally being her and her husband are literally involved into the way things are going in Canada. Okay, so all my Canadian listeners and family members out there, you might want to listen up to this 8-minute video. Okay, here we go.
So you guys wanted a video on the 13 families and who rules the world? Well, I've got one better for you. I basically drew an entire power pyramid and the structure of how the world works, where the powers are, and who is actually in charge. Now with like any other video, this is for educational purposes only. And for those of you who keep saying I can't pronounce words, English is not my first language. It is my fifth. So I'm about to butcher some words here and names. So if you don't like hearing people mispronounce things, I suggest you scroll past. So this video is, I'm going to try and make it as detailed as possible. But it is a continuation of my last video where I said that there were two groups of Canaanites. One that moved north to what is today known as the Ukraine, and then from the Ukraine they got kicked out and moved into Europe. Europe they went to the United States. Those are the 13 United States families. Then the second group is basically the one that went to the Mediterranean, and they made 13 families of Europe, and I've got their list of names as well. So this is going to be a longer video where it's packed full of information, and I will try and do it in as fast as I possibly can. So let's get started. So this is my really bad power pyramid that is very simplified just for the fact of TikTok. I will go into more details in my subsequent videos, but I figure I'd show you guys the layout or the syllabus, I guess, for other videos, and how the whole Balenciaga and all of these so-called conspiracy theories actually aren't conspiracy theories and tie into the power of the world. Now, basically at the top here, we have the one who rules them all, which is Baal. Sorry for shaking. And Baal and his teachings and his way of basically taking over the world through this cult and their teachings, and I will get into that. That's what I meant in my other video where the elites think that they can actually sin their way through heaven. Now, are they actually elites or illuminated ones? No. Those were the Atlanteans or the sea people that actually fought the Egyptians in ancient Egypt. And then all of their stuff was stolen, perverted by these three groups, which then kind of progress downwards with certain secret societies and groups that they are basically the heads of, and they also recruit regular people to do their dirty work for them. Now, I'm just going to kind of give you a basic overview of all of this, and then in subsequent videos, I'll go into detail of each group. Now, the one thing you have to understand that each one of these levels actually has a little sub-level where you have one person in charge of two separate groups. These groups do not know what they're being told, or even if they're working together or against each other. They only know that they have to basically basically report to the top person. And then it basically kind of cascades down to the bottom, all the way to the bottom to common everyday people. So basically at the top here, we have the Black Nobility Jesuits order, which are the Canaanites who went from Israel, who were kicked out of Israel, actually. And this is from my last video. So if you want to know who these guys are, basically go back to my last video. It explains it really well. Now, their logo is IHS. What does IHS stand for? Well, it's Isis, Horus, and Set, and these are Egyptian gods that they worship. And they basically infiltrated the Roman Catholic Church. So if you kind of have heard of all of the weird and bad things going on with the Roman Catholic Church, it's because of these guys, and it's because they worship Baal. Now, within their organization, they have the white pope, the gray pope, and the black pope being the top guy, and the white and the gray pope kind of being his minions. They're also the original Men in Black, and Adam Weishaupt, who's a Jesuit, was actually the founder of the Illuminati. The Illuminati, once again, is in quotations because these families basically just told themselves that they're the Illuminatis. Now, these 13 families actually came from Europe, originally coming in from the Ukraine. They were kicked out. They went to Europe, changed their last names, and then when they came to the United States, they sort of changed their last names again. You can find more things on these families by Googling 13 Bloodline Illuminati CIA, and it will take you to the CIA website where there is a great 300 page book document on all of these families in detail. Now, the European 13 family groups are these groups, and all of them have actually had a pope. I'm going to do a close-up so you guys can kind of see, and I'm really sorry about my writing. If you guys can't read anything, let me know. I'll tell you in the comment section. Now, as we work our way down each one of these groups, you will realize that all of the heads of these families and recruited rich families that they have recruited are the heads of UN, NATO, WHO, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderbergs, and other government councils. The way the British royal family is involved in all of this is basically they own the intelligence agencies of the entire world. And I actually have proof of that, and I will also show you in another video. So the way the power structure works is the one who rules them all is Baal. And that's why I was saying Balenciaga, and also, what's his pickle? Aleister Crowley and Thelema. Actually, there is a connection between all of this. And the way their power structure works through also the same control that they use on us, just a lot less. So if you actually look at the top three, they're the only ones who are not mind controlled. So if we basically look at all of these levels, and each level has a bunch of sub-levels, because they're being recruited by the heads of this family, which is the 13 families of Europe, and the 13 families of Europe and China, the only Chinese family being the Li family dynasty. And basically, they recruit using this cult and their teachings, and the cult basically is encouraging and practicing sexual promiscuity, adultery, incest, and religious orgies. And also they use a lot of propaganda and blackmail to kind of keep everybody in control, including the Freemasons and secret societies. Now, these Freemasons are not the same as the Freemasons that kind of exist with common everyday people that you see on TikTok. I call them street level Freemasons, and that's basically just a front group to take away the heat from the Freemasons who actually control the government, the intelligence agencies, and these large conglomerate of government groups such as UN and NATO. Secret societies are basically in universities and very high profile universities, rich universities, with rich kids going there. The way they make their money is through world trade, opium trade, gun trade, any other illegal trade, and also human and child trafficking. I will get into that when we kind of get into the video for the 166 redemption through sin. Now, I want to know what you guys know. If you guys have any questions about this video, or if you want me to go into detail in anything else in subsequent videos, let me know. If
you want to download this video.
Finally, someone comes out and backs up what we've been saying. Damn.
Exactly. 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 And you know what? I'm so glad she's that thorough of a researcher, and she's still new at it too. But she did her research on this, bro, like you wouldn't believe. She hit it out of the park, and her husband are phenomenal. You know, they really are. They're in the oil industry. They work in the oil fields, and they work on the oil rigs, and so you know they're hardcore. You know, they're always down here in the U.S. You know, working in the oil industry. But in their off time, they do a lot of research together, and what she has been uncovering from day one, even the effects of everything that's been happening politically in Canada, it's amazing. Okay, so if anybody, you know, Tajana, truth seeker, you know, my hat's off to her. I told her husband the other day that, you know, on social media that they're like my kids, you know, as far as I'm concerned, because they're so thorough at their research. So it does my heart good knowing that there's going to be somebody to continue this research on. But yeah, I mean, as far as connecting the dots, she is probably one of the best that I've seen doing it. Um, so much revealed in such an 8-minute clip. It's amazing. But she hit it right on the head with the 13 families of you know, the Canaanites and all that bloodline, and the whole. I mean, it literally connected everything I've got behind me on the wall. It literally did.
I mean, look how many times we've been telling people that they're mistaken about Freemasons. You know, we're Freemasons. We're ancient, free, and accepting Masons. We're Freemasons, which,
Yep.
yes, it was birthed from the Knights Templar. Yes, that's true. But we kept, how many times we told them the Freemasons ain't the Freemasons that you think of. I don't know how many. Finally,
Exactly.
somebody who's not a Freemason comes out and goes, "Look, there is two different types."
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, you have to ask yourself too, why did the Templar Knights remove themselves from the Vatican? You have to
I
you
wonder
have
what
to
the Pope
understand
did.
what did the Templar Knights find underneath King Solomon's temple
Mm-hmm.
that made them change their mind about the Vatican and protecting the Christians? Okay, and I use that term loosely. Okay, I'm not saying that Catholicism and anybody that's involved in Catholicism is evil or anything, but the Vatican itself and Constantine designed it for a purpose, literally for a purpose. And some people just they refuse to acknowledge that, and that it's still the same old Roman army. It just went
Mm.
underground. Okay,
Caesar
their
became the
Colosseum, yeah, their Colosseums turned out to be our now modern day sports arenas and music arenas where ceremonies through magic and music and sports manipulate humanity and put spells on humanity to keep us entranced into this
Mhm.
world that is based off of materialistic things, plain and simple. You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing
Everybody's wanting to know
how
where
it
you
all
find.
connects. Oh, I'll put the link out on Facebook here after the podcast, and but there's more to it than just what she's found out, though. It's more in depth, but she really did a good job. I really, you know, my hat's off to her and her husband. They, you know, for being as young as they are literally phenomenal. And you know, hopefully she'll see this and her husband will see this and, oh gee, you know, and to come on the show sometime. So that being said, if they're listening, I you know, I wish they would. Um, but there's other things I want to play here, and you know, just to have somebody acknowledge that the Masons of today are not basically affiliated with anything Illuminati, it does my heart good, you know. So, you know, finally somebody spoke up about it, and that's why I wanted to play that. But that also, I wanted everybody to see the breakdown is the same breakdown I've been talking about this whole time. Okay, it's just different names, different historical data, different names, different geographical names are given to things, but it's a repetitive thing, you know. And think of it as like history repeating itself over and over again. I put out a post earlier today, Eric, on social media about what if what we're seeing, you know, stars, you know, falling shooting stars, meteor showers and stuff that we see, you know, periodically. What if that's actually residual energy? What if that is residual energy that the creator is letting us see what actually transpired during the heavenly wars when with Lucifer's fall? Okay, maybe those are ways that the creator is signaling to us to wake up, you know, that we need to get out of this sleep that we're in and realize that there's only one and one true God, and that's it. And that is the creator, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the one that created everything, including the Anunnaki. Okay, so we need to get beyond the Anunnaki now. We know where the Anunnaki lie within this relationship to humanity. Okay, we know what they've done. We know how they've been renamed themselves time and time again over history. You know, we know people have called them the butterfly people because there are some Anunnaki that are good. Okay, there are, just like in any race. Okay, and they will, you know, if they're interdimensional or angelic in nature, then, you know, you're going to have your, just like it talks about the wars in heaven, you have Michael and his good angels against Lucifer and the fallen angels. So, you know, I mean, you have your good and your bad. It's the same thing. Okay, and I think that it's just been twerked and tweaked a little bit, you know, throughout history, from different parts of the world, giving different titles and different meanings and symbolisms behind it all. Okay, and I think it just got overwhelmingly confusing for humanity as a whole to interpret everything as being together instead of all these religions being separate and being, you know, misguided and all that, over time by the powers that be. Okay, air quotes. That, of course, you know, humanity is going to be at the point where we're a sinking ship right now, plain and simple. Unfortunately, it's been that way. So now I'm not sure if these other videos are the ones. I'm going to play the short one first to see if this is the one, because I didn't have time to title them. But this one's 48 seconds long. It's going to be short. And it talks, I think this is the one that talks about the matrix and the simulation and all that theory. And then I'm going to play the second one. The second one's almost 10 minutes long, everybody. But let me tell you, the second one is something you're going to want to listen to. Okay, because it's where the Russian hierarchy explains to an interviewer what's going on with why Russia is doing what it's doing. And I think it's going to blow some minds. But I'm going to play the short one first, Eric, okay?
What we're living right now, this world, this system, this grind, isn't life. It's a simulation of survival designed to keep your soul distracted and your flame dimmed. You weren't born to pay bills and obey. You weren't born to chase dopamine and die repeating. You weren't born to forget who you are every time you return. This isn't life, it's a test, a trap, a training ground. And the parasites call it normal. The world you see isn't real. Skies sprayed, food poisoned, bodies synthetic, time fake, money fictional, news scripted, reality inverted. and still they say, be grateful, this is just how life is. But your soul knows better. It aches because it remembers. It suffers because it hasn't given in. It burns because it was never meant to fit in here. This isn't life, it's a containment grid.
And that's exactly what I've been explaining to everybody too, that this, what we're in right now, is literally a containment grid. We are literally living within a cage and we're being manipulated. Okay. And whether you call it the demiurge, whether you call it Lucifer, the fallen angels, you can call it the grays, I don't care what you call it, there's still a control factor in our lives, or what we consider our lives. Okay. And a lot of people that have been researching this are starting to realize that there is, there's truth behind it, because scientists are coming out and saying, yeah, we are living in a simulation, that at some point our brain, which is a computer, can be turned off and on just like the switch on a computer. Okay. And our simulation could be processed by, well, let's just say MK Ultra. Let's just say heart facility, CERN messing with timelines. I mean, ever since 2008, things have gotten out of whack. And, CERN basically started in 2008. Okay. So you can blame a lot of this on them. And why the world lets one country have so much power by having a thing called the Hadron Collider, and now making one that's 20 times bigger. I just can't understand why the world lets that happen, because it'd be different if their country was on another planet far, far away and they blew themselves up. But they're taking all the innocent people with them. That's the problem I have with it. Okay. And that's the problem I have with any type of things, even the heart facility, as far as that goes. These installations are doing this without humanity's permission. And humanity just sits back and says, oh, we're guinea pigs. Yay, yay, let's do this. I can't understand that. Not for the life of me. I really can't. But I'm going to play this video. Okay, a 9-minute and 43-second video with this Russian being interviewed, and he is a high-ranking member of the Russian government. Okay, and well, I'm going to let the video speak for itself. Okay, but you might want to listen, because some of the information this guy is disclosing, you're not going to hear anywhere else.
President Putin is using others like me. Wants to disclose information he cannot.
Information like what your government calls the Anunnaki threat?
Among other things, yes.
Let's focus there for a second. To start, can you tell us when your government learned of this race, and give us a little background on how Putin determined that they were, shall we say, not very friendly?
Sometimes in late 2012. I cannot remember the exact date. We began receiving intelligence reports of extraterrestrial, extraterrestrials in conflict areas like Syria, Afghanistan, Georgia, Ukraine. Many reports surface of extraordinarily tall humanoids, 3 to 5 meters. I'm sure you've heard of the Kandahar giant. That's just one of many. What we learned is that this race of evil ETs would seek out hotspots, places of conflict where they can camouflage themselves within the carnage of war. So they appear at battle sites and take corpses of dead and sometimes abduct the living. These stories are reported because it is easy to explain as battle-induced acute stress and hallucinations.
How convenient. If these events, however, have happened beyond Russia's sovereign borders, in Syria and other nations, why does Putin care?
Because unlike Western leaders, President Putin recognizes this burning of great threat to humanity. If we do not fight them in Syria, we will have to fight them in Stalingrad.
Stalingrad? I thought Stalin was not to be mentioned in the new Russia under President Putin.
It was in Paris, and they have Stalingrad metro station. So you Westerners think that you can have Stalingrad and stations cannot have Stalingrad. That's nonsense.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. And I would never presume to demand political correctness from Russians when I hate it here in America. Anyway, these Anunnaki, what is their disposition? How strong are they?
Unfortunately, it is hard to check exactly how many Anunnaki are currently in this area. And yet, many more seem to appear.
Okay, now that we're getting into your nation's efforts to eradicate the Anunnaki, can you tell us how exactly Putin plans to defeat a technologically and potentially numerically superior foe?
Some things I can say, some I cannot. Yeah. We discovered that Anunnaki were resilient to small arms, fire, like Kalashnikov bullets. Usually they don't work on them. President Putin, he gave secret executive order to organize nationwide effort to defeat this monster. Military base in Europe, Ural Mountains.
Right.
It was repurposed as a top secret ET, like extraterrestrial research center, to train Russian special services and to develop technology capable of reducing these.
I see. I presume you're referring to the Mskoya facility, and I'd like to return to that in a minute. Can you tell me about Russia's earliest skirmishes with the Anunnaki and the outcome of those engagements?
First outcome was bad, very bad. We did not know their defense technologies. We received report, we sent Spetsnaz to chase them to vast networks of caves in Syria. We lost many combats. Our bullets often bounced above them. And they slaughter our soldiers like pigs in mud. Plasma-based weapons, and also use energy spears to skewer our fighting brothers. We lost maybe 200 men before finding a place in their armor where we can shoot them.
Yeah, a tragic loss of Russia's fighting men. How did your nation discover a weakness in the Anunnaki?
That's during an engagement. One Anunnaki mistakenly wounded another. And survivors of this battle captured one of the base and took it to Meshgor. Top scientists tried to interrogate it, but no luck. We could not understand their language. They speak in chirps and shirts. So if they could understand us, it never let us know, since interrogation not possible, we do that next best thing, science. So we exposed the Anunnaki to extreme heat, extreme cold, acid, even knowledge of poison. Nothing worked. Finally, after many months, we discovered two weaknesses. Acoustic weapons of certain frequencies cause Anunnaki much pain and make them fall to the ground. Also, they can be killed by energy-based weapons like a laser, 10 kilowatt laser, powerful enough to vaporize a single Anunnaki. And this happened, that subject died. Unfortunately, these weapons right now are large and must be vehicle-mounted. Training troops with handheld versions, but right now these are only strong enough to stun the smaller Anunnaki, but certainly not all.
Fascinating. Do you know how many encounters have Russian special services had with the Anunnaki?
Yes. 7 that I'm aware of. This does not count the recent bombings of Anunnaki enclaves in Syria.
You say bombings. Bombs, in my mind, are considered conventional weapons.
Yes. Special ordnance developed by the Ministry of Defense. I do know technical schematics, but in addition to explosion, like the weapons release energy pulse on detonation that damages Anunnaki brains.
Well, if that being said, and if that's true, then Putin should have no problem wiping all the existing Anunnaki off the face of the planet.
If only it was so easy. Anunnaki have a unique form of transportation. They use portals which only they can see. It transport instantaneously from one location to another. If they see the attack coming, they can strike back, and this has happened, or they can vanish through a portal and reappear somewhere else. Maybe thousands of miles away. We speculate that the portals are fixed locations installed by the Anunnaki in previous years. And we have no idea how many of these portals are on the planet. It could be millions for all we know, maybe even back to their homeworld.
And based on what you know, where is that?
Russian intelligence believes the Anunnaki are natives of the fifth and seventh planet of the Nibiru system.
How did Putin or whomever with the Ministry of Defense come by that information?
Because they told us so.
Some clarification is needed here, Strelnikov. Earlier, a few minutes ago, you said communication with the Anunnaki was impossible. That being so, how was this information delivered?
Yes, in that statement, I referred only to the captured one, the captured Anunnaki, who would not communicate. But like I said, we had many engagements with these evil creatures. Some times ago, after we killed nearly 200 of them in a fight, an Anunnaki emissary reached out to President Putin and offered him an ultimatum. This time he spoke perfect Russian.
Where did this contact happen?
It materialized near Ministry of Defense headquarters and demanded to speak with Putin. Very tall, 4 meters, translucent skin, phasing in and out of existence. Mike, I'm out of time for this today, for this talk.
No problem, Strelnikov. You do not know how grateful I am to you for sharing with us this incredibly important story. I hope that you will agree to chat with me again, as there's certainly a lot more information about the Anunnaki to cover, and yes. I would like to conclude with that topic before we dive into other topics.
All right, Mike. I will be in touch with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Strelnikov. You have a good afternoon.
So, it's like I always say, you got to question everything, everybody. You really do. The information that is being brought out about certain things. Now, obviously, it could be completely fabricated, okay? But there's no way to tell. But it's just funny how what transpired over the last couple years with Russia and Ukraine, and what we all heard about, like human trafficking and stuff in Ukraine happening, and then all the biolabs in Ukraine happening, the possibility that the Anunnaki or a faction of the Anunnaki were doing biological testing on humans, biological genetic studies on humans, and that's why these people were missing, and that's why there were so many biolabs. Okay, now is Russia saying that they invaded Ukraine because of the Anunnaki? No, that's not. I think that is something that they found out after the whole thing started. Okay. So, and I think it was disclosed through the biolabs that were there in Ukraine. And we all know who controlled the biolabs in Ukraine. Okay. It was certain fractions, certain families, okay, and certain scientists, okay, prominent scientists that were in control of the biolabs in Ukraine. Okay. And if you take and you look at the bloodline that I've disclosed and that all these other researchers have disclosed, especially tonight on her video when she broke it down to 13 bloodlines of Europe and 13 bloodlines of America and all that. It's the same ones. I'm telling you, people, it's the same ones. Same bloodline. Okay. So there is connections to be made. Okay. There are ways to make these connections, and the truth will come out eventually. But I mean, it's apparent that, you know, bits and pieces are coming out here and there. But for the most part, which bloodline do we need? Why do we have RH negative? Think about it. The whole thing with the RH negative bloodline just genetically appeared at one point in certain time in history. Think about it. And it appeared in history around the same time Constantine became a Christian, or said he became a Christian. I think he was literally still pagan, but just assumed that prominent religious belief because of the outpouring of Christianity at that time being so predominant and so, you know, he knew that was going to be a predominant religion. Okay. So I think he assumed that, and he wanted to control that and control the masses through that. Okay. Which, same old Roman army, just went underground, folks. Just went underground. What do you think, Eric?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm messing with people in the chat. Them actually fighting Anunnaki, I don't know. That could be just somebody trying to get clickbait. It'd be somebody, I don't know.
He was part of the Minister of Defense, though, for Russia, though. That's the thing.
Doesn't mean he ain't gonna make crap up. I mean, sorry, but they do
I
it all
know
the
that
time.
we have our own Lou
So I mean,
Elizondo. So yeah, I mean that's apparent. We have our own, you know, Lou
yeah,
Elizondos and people
yeah,
like him. So, you know, disinformation is a big campaign, and when it comes to propaganda,
yeah.
that's enough to be
That
said.
could be.
I'm not saying trust it completely, but I'm saying there is that possibility that it talks about.
It is.
He's talking about the bloodline wars that I was talking about 2 weeks ago on the podcast.
That that part I can get on board with the bloodline deal. Definitely can get on that. Them going out and fighting them, I mean, to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, that is possible, or it could be a cover up. Hey, wizard, be a cover up for something they're doing. So, I don't know. Bloodline, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I'm on board with that one. The other part, not yet. I'm on the fence. I'm
Well,
on the fence. I'm just not crossed over that fence yet. I'm sitting on it, hoping I don't, cut up my special place on the barbed wire. So that's pretty much where I'm at. It's but some of that other stuff, like the other videos and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good information coming out. A lot of people finally starting to get off their backside and getting information out there that needs to be put out there, and that's what I'm enjoying. I'm not going to
yep.
agree with everything that's going out there. Hey, I'm human. I'm not always going to agree with everybody else. There are certain things. I'm debating on doing a Rumble show tomorrow because there's certain things I need to talk about that's getting ready to happen. That's part of the reason why I've been kind of silent lately, because I've been having communications on the backside of something that's getting ready to happen. So I've been kind of dealing with that plus other stuff, professional stuff. But so dealing with what I've been told the last couple of days and seeing this information come out makes me very excited. Uh, Kind of amazing. William, have you ever heard of Eric? And Eric, have you ever heard of William Cooper? He's got amazing stuff out there. I don't think so, Carl, but I could be wrong. There's people I've heard of, but I don't remember their names. So I mean, that is possible. But I do get excited because, like I said, from information that I've gotten the last couple of days does fall in line with some of what you've been sharing tonight, and which is some of the stuff that we've been waiting on for a certain situation to happen. Now, and I have to be very careful what I say because we're on YouTube. So I'm trying to pick my words. Is a certain individual that was talked about on one of your latest shows or little videos you just did? Is he doing something behind the scenes that people don't know about? Absolutely. There's a lot more going on with a certain group from World War II that's now present in a certain country that everybody likes to talk about, which actually it's not a country, it's a state of Russia. In a certain state of Russia that everybody's. This is, man, it's Rumble. I need to do a Rumble live. I haven't done one in a while.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I can talk more open.
Very true.
Yeah.
I just, with the amount of information that's been coming out lately, it's amazing. And, I'm so glad a lot of these researchers and investigators are really stepping forward finally and basically calling these so-called bloodlines and stuff out on the carpet about a lot of issues.
I mean, this is stuff me and you and I have covered for a long time. And now other people are finally coming out.
Exactly. Finally. I don't know. What's everybody think in the chat about that tonight so far? I took the small scrolling thing down so we can start posting some of the comments if they have any questions or anything.
Okay, because we've missed a lot of questions because I'm not being able to pop them up. Yeah. So if we didn't answer your question tonight, guys, put it back in there so we can get it up.
Yeah, put your questions. Yeah, put your questions back in there.
Sorry, allergies are messing with my eyes right now, so they're blurred up. So I'm constantly
Isn't
playing with them.
Isn't a theory that the Anunnaki made us? Well,
that is,
yes, it's actually a theory that Enki was the one that made us, brown dwarf. So, but Enki is also throughout a lot of the doctrines, the religious doctrines out there, the tablets, the scrolls, the Mahabharata from India, all kinds of different documentation depicts the demiurge or the Naga race as being the Enki race, as being the race of Ra from Egypt. Okay, so I mean it's all connected. If you delve into it deep enough, like I've done, going down the rabbit hole and getting stuck, it's amazing what you find out and what you can actually connect the dots to. So, but yeah, it is a fact that one of the beliefs is that Enki created us, him and his wife.
If you study ancient Sumerian and you study the Old Testament, it is almost identical. And that's the only reason why I say almost is because the Sumerians called them by one name where the Jews called by the other, which the Jews came from ancient Sumeria. So they practiced the same stuff and talked about the same stuff. Just that's because that's where they came from. So that's why ancient Sumerian in the Old Testament dang near identical on every single freaking thing. There's a lot of stuff you'll find in Judaism you're going to find in ancient Sumerian because of that right there.
Now, a lot of the interpretation that you're going to find are going to differ slightly, but it's going to have the same basic principle and meaning behind it. Okay, but the descriptive narratives are going to be a little different. Okay, so that's common when it comes to dealing with ancient language and ancient script. Okay, because it's still, there's a curve to it that, you might get a certain percentage of it wrong, which we find out through translation from Aramaic to Greek in the Bible. So there's different words that mean different things, literally. So that being said, we have to take that into consideration, that there's going to be a percentage, a small percentage, but yet a percentage that's going to be a little bit off in the interpretation of the actual, what the actual scriptures read. Okay. Okay. Baal is literally a representation of Lucifer. Okay. Baal is a representation of the satanic cults. Baal is actually one of the statues, believe it or not, that is located at CERN in Switzerland. So that and the Hindu goddess of with the 8 arms or whatever, I forget what she's called, but yeah, both statues are part of CERN's property. So you have to ask yourself, if CERN is so good for humanity and doing all these good experiments, why do they have such evil representation on their property? So,
Yeah. Shiva, thank you, Urso. That's what I was trying to remember.
yeah, Shiva, thank you.
The pics you had up of the statue, one was depicted in the Exorcist movie, the one in the desert in Africa. Hey, Vicky, how you doing today, sweetheart? Let us know how you're doing today.
Which picture? Oh, this one. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing we got to keep in mind, though, a lot of the way things are controlled and humanity is controlled is through the men in black. And it's almost like they know that they have been figured out to be the ones that are basically the enforcers of the controlling deities that is trying to control this world. Okay, so they've kind of backed off a little bit with the men in black encounters, but they are still happening to this very day. Here is while I was doing my research, I was talking to Moon Henry a little bit, and those of you that don't know him, you might want to look him up on Facebook and YouTube. He's got some very, very good short videos out. A lot of religious preferences to correlate with a lot that's going on too. But while I was going through that, I found this. This is here in the States, and that is literally a 5G mast that basically, how do I want to say, mysteriously caught on fire and exploded without being hit by lightning or anything. Okay, just putting it out there. Now, are they controlling the simulation aspect of it through 5G? That's always been a part of it. Yes, they've always wanted to do 5G. But it also, at the same time, I believe that CERN is involved, HARP is involved, NASA is involved. Remember, I pointed all these out Friday night as what I call the gatekeepers. Okay, they are literally the gatekeepers of this simulation, of this simulation that we're in. Okay, literally, everything goes through them. If They are the ones. If you've ever seen a site where NASA has been out in the middle of nowhere, Utah, NASA has a site out in Utah. Believe it or not, okay. And why they were digging in the ground and looking for something is beyond me, which is kind of questionable, you know. So it kind of told me that NASA is definitely a gatekeeper, okay. But they put a medallion on the ground where they dig to mark the location. And it's got a tracking GPS that only NASA and the military industrial complex is able to track. Okay. And that's that way they don't lose the latitude and longitude of that exact location where they found something. Okay. And it's a medallion about the size of a dinner plate. And they put it in the ground, and inside the center of the dinner plate lid is the tracking device, and it's about the size of a coffee cup in diameter, and it's mounted in the center of that plate form, and it's put into the ground. You have to ask yourself, why is NASA in the middle of Utah, in the middle of nowhere? What are they looking for? Think about it. What are they looking for? Kind of like the question of why we all of a sudden decided to bomb Iran in the northern regions where Azazel is said to be enslaved or captured and confined. There's a lot more going on that meets the eyes, guys. We just need to connect the dots. I got to get some coffee. Hold on.
Yep.
Yep. All right. My only question was, how do we get out of the simulation? Also, I have seen the grid behind the clouds. It looks like white stripes. Yeah, and it's literally. I'm going to show you something here too. Okay, about the grid. Oh, you know what? I didn't download it. It's on my phone. Hold on. Let me see if I can bring it up here on the computer. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let me get this off of here, and I'll upload something else and get that off of there, because we don't need to see phony pictures of Bigfoot. And I'm going to go into my archives here, and I'm going to pull up a couple pictures to show you the grid that we're talking about. All right, where is it? Let me see here. Give me 1 second, guys. I am trying to find it. Really? I know darn well I have it. All right, where is it? I'm still looking. Y'all can talk if you want to. Talk amongst yourselves. Give me a second to look for this.
Oh, I've been doing that in my head this whole time.
Let's see here. Come on,
I even
man.
answer
Where is it?
myself. I'm going to get to Carl's question, didn't I? The one I know about Carl's in Colorado, and I know somebody who works in that one. Actually, I know what the entrance looks like and everything. I know is that the one you're talking about? But the one I'm thinking is the one that's in Colorado.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the one under the Denver International Airport, isn't it?
Nope. Nope. It'd be in a place that nobody would think to look. I am, other than you gentlemen and Tajana, the truth seeker. Who else is a good researcher to follow in your opinions? Oh man. Well,
There's a
Dr.
lot.
Charlie Ward. Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie
Uh,
Ward is a good one.
Dr. Charlie Ward, Dr. Sala is another good one. I'm just brain farting now.
Moon Henry.
107 Moon Henry. It's Juan. That's a Juan 107. Let's see here. Who else can I think of?
Let's not forget about let me see here. Where is it? I'm trying to find it right now. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Where is it now?
Kali. Oh my gosh. Why couldn't I remember Kali? I should have thought that. Indiana Jones. Kali.
M-Spiracy. M-Spiracy is a good one. Okay. She's out of the UK. And very, very knowledgeable. And God, who else?
Hey, Don. I can't think. So I've actually got. I thought MG were or the 5G were up in towers. No, 5G's been placed in a lot of different things.
Yeah, you'll find
I've
5G
done
positioned outside of buildings too.
in fake cactuses, fake trees, signs. You'll find them just about anywhere. I'm wondering because of a certain thing going on. I can't talk about it because I'm on YouTube. If they weren't purposely destroyed because of what 5G actually is.
Exactly. Anybody else got questions? Let's get them. Let's get them put up so we can talk about it and answer them.
I'm trying to go through the chat and see. Going to talk with Arch. Okay, yeah. Keep us updated on that, Vicky. Can't put that off too long, sweetheart. If you try to go to England because you want to go so bad, bad things can happen. If it needs to be done, get her done.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, AI, how's it going? Trying to see. I'm going through the comments because I'm kind of behind. See if we got any more questions here.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through them too.
What do they put in underground prisons? People that they don't want to see the light of day again, and that they want forgotten of different
Probably be,
caliber.
probably be me and Eric pretty soon.
All I can tell you is if I go there, I'm a screamer, by God.
I'm taking them out with me.
I'm going to go out the way I came in this world, kicking and screaming and toothless, by God.
Oh,
Roxanne says, Eric, have you heard about the sphere they found in Colombia? Yes, actually. Was that like 3 foot wide, something like that, if memory serves me correctly? I think I have.
Muchetti. I can't. I'm not going to put that up. Oh, that's funny though.
AI wants to know, where does it say as Zezel was in Iran?
That would be the book of
Back then it
Enoch.
wasn't. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And there's other books in there too. I believe it's the book of John, the Apocrypha of John.
Yeah, it's back then it wasn't known as Iraq and Iran. It was like Persia, but before it was even Persia, Persia was called something else. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Good
We
to
all
have you
know
here,
that
AI.
Iran has always been known as the cradle of life, literally, in a lot of mythology and stuff about ancient history. So that whole area has been predominantly depicted as literally the cradle of life. Iran, Iraq, parts of Turkey, Syria, all that area.
Dr. Greer, that was another one I forgot. Thank you, Roxanne. Dr. Greer.
Yes,
I forgot about
Stephen Greer. Yeah.
that. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I am trying to get caught up. I'm going through your comments slowly to make. Okay, I am caught up. Never mind. Whoop whoop! Look at me, fluffy guy did it.
Okay.
Persia is what you're thinking of, yeah. But it was also, before it was Persia, it was also called something else, and I believe it was actually Samaria. I believe it was Samaria first, then Persia, and now it's Iraq and Iran. But I'm trying to go off my memory, and it's been a little while since I looked at it. But if it is correct, it was Samaria, Persia, now it's Iraq, Iran, and stuff like that.
I thought it was
Mesopotamia.
Samaria, Mesopotamia, and then
Yeah,
Persia.
yeah, you're right. Yep, that's it. As soon as I seen Mesopotamia, I went, oh, yep, that was one I forgot. Yep. So you better not leave
Yeah,
us forever, Tanya.
If I can get it out.
Damn.
I'm choking on my coffee.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the Garden of Eden. Man, I'm getting feedback for some reason. He says, I heard he called the area Garden of Eden. There's a lot of evidence to support that the real Garden of Eden was actually here in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying there's a lot of evidence that's pointing to that's a very good possibility that we were actually mistaken, which would make sense with the 5 civilized tribes having, Jewish DNA in them, and they're known that we got the lost tribe of Judah. So that is a good possibility. Not saying it's true, but
Yep, the lost tribe of the Israelites that sinned and their skin turned red. That's what the Mormons believe. So yeah, I mean, I went over that podcast about 2 months ago about the correlation between the Garden of Eden being right here in the United States, and how a certain gopher wood is only found in the swamps of Florida and Georgia. And that was the same wood that was used to build the Noah's Ark. So, along with the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi, being the same descriptive biblical description of the Euphrates in the Bible. So, and if that's the case, then that's probably leading to all the earthquake activity that is being seen around Missouri along the Mississippi River, and why it flowed backwards the one time in history, because the four horsemen of the apocalypse is beneath the river. Think about it.
That's why I'm living the greatest state in the U.S. There's a lot of theories that America was Egypt. Yes, there is, and Williams got photos of the Grand Canyon that looks very much like what we would think Egypt. We know Egypt to look like right now.
Exactly.
So, I agree. That's a good possibility. The Garden of Eden being in Florida, I haven't heard that one yet, but I can't say no to it. From what I've been seeing, it's more of the middle of the United States, around my area, basically. Hey, Daryl. Yeah,
Well,
and with the gopher wood, like William was talking about, yeah, you only find that here in the United States. If that's true, then I mean that's more credibility to that being the case as well.
exactly. And that's the whole purpose of why I do research, folks. I can tell you right now, I've got some of the notes from that podcast right here with me, and I'll read off some of the things that make it biblically possible for the United States to be the location of the original Garden of Eden. So give me 1 second,
Yeah,
and I will get my notes.
and you got to think too. When Noah built that ark, he wasn't at the Garden of Eden no more. They had moved on and went somewhere else. So, I mean, I can see the ark being built in Florida. That's a very good possibility because I believe it's Florida and Georgia where gopher wood is found. I think.
Yeah, it's the swamps
Over
of
there.
Florida and Georgia, right at the
Okay.
Union of the States.
That's what I
All
thought.
right, I did.
So
Yeah,
if they're
I did a podcast a while back about the hidden Egypt. Okay, and it talks about mounds in the Bible. Okay, and Egypt and parts of Israel and stuff in that area of the country of the world have mounds, but they don't have near as many mounds as you can find here in America. We have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of mounds in America, which is a biblical, saying that mounds were part of the beginning. Okay, um, let's see. Yeah,
riddle me
Africa's
this.
got hard. Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon is another one. The Bible says the Nile River is reported to have 7 tributaries to start and is over 4,248 miles long. That's not true. The only river in the world that has those dimensions, 7 headwaters and over 4,248 miles long, is the Mississippi River. Okay. Also, the African Nile only has 3 tributaries. So, you got to consider that. Plus, it's too short. The Mississippi is, let's see, is big enough by almost 600 miles in length. Okay, so the distance of Washington, D.C. to, say, Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, let's just say that rough distance, that's how much leeway the Mississippi has in being predominantly named as the Nile River and also the Euphrates. Okay, so that being said, also, um, let's see. And these are not all my notes. Um, there are more mounds and pyramids in America and Sphinx than are located in Egypt. Okay. So that's another one. And I've got other notes too. I have to find them. But yeah, I went through a whole podcast about all the things that we could basically correlate that make more sense about America being the original Garden of Eden than it does the Middle East. So just saying.
I got a riddle for you.
In fact, let me.
Riddle me this: the
What's
Sphinx that
that?
we know about, it's in modern day Egypt. Can anybody tell me what the recent archaeological studies found that happened to the Sphinx that we know of? Let's see if anybody can get it. And Tanya, you better not leave us. I'll kick your booty, girl. You better
Uh-oh,
come back
Tanya.
quick.
You
I'm
better
gonna
not.
cry. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna
You better
cry,
not.
Tanya. You're gonna make Fluffy guy cry. That was one of them, but that's not the one I'm looking for, Miriam. And this is going to play why it makes a big difference between the United States and Egypt. I'll give you that hint. They found the section Sphinx and they were weathering by rain. It was underwater. It was buried under. Not only that, it had been altered greatly, and that's why the nose is broke off. Is because it was physically, manpoweredly manipulated and changed and altered, and that's what actually happened to the nose. So what we see the Sphinx of nowadays is not how the Sphinx actually truly looked like, and that's why if you see the one that's in the Grand Canyon, it looks different than the one in Egypt because the one in Egypt had been altered by man.
Yeah, and here's something to consider too, guys. During the flood, the reason, I mean, we all know the history of why the floods occurred is because of the Nephilim, um, and humanity being so off and evil, um, and sinful that that the Bible depicts. Um, but at those times, at that time in history, the only mountains biblically that were mentioned were Mount Biru and Mount Zion and Mount Lebanon and some other mountains. Okay, after the flood, you have the depictions of the Appalachian mountain chain, the Ozark mountain chain, the Rockies, the Mount Everest, and all the other ones in Nepal, um, the mountain ranges in Japan, all over the world. Okay, so you have to consider when you flood an area with giants that are biblically described literally as cloud eaters. Okay, and not all of them were considered cloud eaters. Just there were several that were considered cloud eaters. One of them, by the way, was named Ohio after the state of Ohio, which nobody made the correlation to, by the way, um, and several others. I've got those written down too somewhere. I got to find my notes from that. But yeah, you can go back into the history of the videos on the channel and find that it was Hidden Egypt is what the podcast was called. So, but yeah, I make all kinds of announcements about my research in America, the real history of America.
Urso, or not Urso, sorry, Carl. Sorry, I was reading Urso's comment for a second. Carl, I would not have thought about that. But now that you say that, I remember something scientifically that cipher trees are close to Google, if
Yeah,
memory
there.
serves me correct.
Well, and you got to understand one thing too, though, that those trees, specifically the cypress and gopher wood trees, were genetically found in those locations primarily because of the environmental conditions. You're not going to find those trees in dry land areas where you're going to have maple or oak or any other tree growing. Um, so you're going to find them in marshy areas. Nowadays, you can probably find gopher and all that around other parts of the world because they were genetically hybrid and made into seedlings and transported to those regions. So, but back in the day, yeah, the only place you can find it today, as a matter of fact, still that wasn't transplanted by some way, shape, or form scientifically is right there in the swamps of Florida and Georgia, which ironically there is Mayan pyramids right there in Georgia also. So, and you got to ask yourself, okay, ask yourself this, everybody in the chat. Okay, well, we've got everybody on here. Where did the Mayan go? Where did the Aztec go? Where did the Anasazi go? They just disappeared. Why? What happened to the Anasazi? Why are the ruins of the Anasazi being protected by the federal government as a national park? Okay. Think about that. Think about all the weird shit and people missing in national parks. There is correlations to all this stuff, everybody. Everything eventually somebody will make the connections, whether it's based off of my research, Eric's research, Tajana's research, um, all of our research. It doesn't matter. It's making the connections that these things are legitimate and these things all correlate together is the key. And our history has been so dissected and geographically and politically manipulated, and the narrative has changed over time, and the perspective of things and the description of things, the names have been changed to protect the innocent, if there is any innocent, if you know what I mean. But you can still see the same correlation if you study it enough. Just like I always say, Enki is Lucifer. Enki and Lucifer are the demiurge. Okay. The demiurge is the false god of this world. Lucifer was declared the false god of this world by Jesus Christ. Okay. There is correlations. Just because it's different religious beliefs doesn't make them, either one of them, illegitimate. You can literally combine them together and come out with the same ending. The same ending. So,
And I got to be me for a second. I'm going to play devil's advocate. So we know at one time the deserts over there were luscious jungle-like areas. So the possibility of them having swamplands at that time is extremely high, and that could be why the gopher wood was, formed there, gathered and formed there. I have to credibly give that a possibility. I have to put that on the possibility factor because that land has been altered since the time of um, the flood. So I have to put that in there. But I wanted to say that before I got to Griff's deal. Never mind. Okay.
I'm just saying, bye to Big E.
Bye, Big. Griff, I've been saying that statement that you had for a very long time, and I agree with that 100%. Where'd that go? Right there. The Pangaea theory is one large landmass that has separated into today's continents. Needs to be taken into account, doesn't it? Absolutely, and it makes a lot of sense because if you like puzzles, which I like puzzles, the continents fit together like a puzzle. So the possibility of the Pangea theory is extremely valuable to me because of that statement right there. And we know for a fact that continents still shift to this day. So that
Yep.
is an extremely credible piece of information right there that I personally wholeheartedly subscribe to.
But at the same time, Griff and Eric and everybody in the chat, we need to take in consideration that we just can't say bits and pieces of biblical scripture is exact and other areas of it are wrong. Okay, when it talks about how the world was created and from the waters from above to the waters below, and it talks about the firmament and how the foundation of the earth was set upon 4 points, and the whole flat earth theory. Okay, we at the same time we're believing all these other parts of the Bible. We can't discount that part of the Bible. We can't tell people that are flat earthers that they're crazy because they have no basis for it, because NASA is faking a lot of their shit through Photoshop, and now it's AI. Okay, you check out the majority of the pictures of Earth, they're going to have the same damn cloud forms. Cloud forms change. Why didn't they change in the pictures? It was actually when they first came out with the globe picture from space, the NASA guy that actually produced those photographs to the public and released them admitted that he photoshopped them. Literally, to the public, he said, I photoshopped them. They're not legitimate. But everybody in the public still believed it. You know why? Because all these education systems around the world got behind the globe theory, started manufacturing globes, putting them on a spinner and sticking them in classrooms. So when little kids came in for the first time to learn an education, they were indoctrinated into the process of knowing that they live on a ball and not something that is considered flat. Think about it. I mean, you got to free your mind. You can't use bits and pieces of the Bible for some of the stuff to prove that it's legitimate and not use all of it. The Bible was written for a reason. Okay? Literally for a reason. All right? And although I don't believe that it's flat like this, okay, which is ridiculous, but I do believe it's more shaped like this button. Okay, literally. All right, it's shaped like that button. All right.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's a globe.
I love science. Okay, science is like one of my favorite things. So we're going to do physics 101 for a second. Pretend this is a globe because I don't have nothing rounded. If I drive straight, and which you can do this today flying and even sell it. If I keep going straight, I'm not going to fall off the earth. Eventually, I'm going to come back right to where I am. That's been proven. It happens, and that happens every single day. If your earth is flat and you drive straight, what happens? You fall off. So you cannot, if you go straight, it's flat, you go straight, you'll never come back to where you was again. That's why I say. Now, I believe it. I don't believe it's a perfect globe. 100%. I don't believe it's a perfect globe. I agree with what William says. It's kind of egg-shaped in a way. That's just because of gravitational pull and stuff like that from the planets, the moons,
And
and
if you,
stuff
and
like
if you think about it too, Eric, you think about what they call the cosmic egg.
that.
You know, the cosmic egg in a lot of ancient alien stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect description
Exactly.
of what I'm trying to describe our planet as being, a cosmic egg. It would make sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, I will say that I am not a flat earther. I'm the furthest thing from that because I've seen with my own eyes the shape of the earth, the surface of the planet. I'm not. Plus, physics alone will tell you if you could fly around the earth, you're going to come right back to where you started. You can't do that if it's flat. You just can't.
Here's something that
It's
I
not.
found that I thought was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and I thought this picture was very, very interesting. If you think about it, it's almost like we're describing. You know, it's almost like football shaped or an egg shape.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe 100% it's egg shaped. I don't think it's a perfect globe by any means. No. I mean, and luckily I was blessed when I was in grade school. We had the old maps that we learned from, which had the egg shape on the map, and we learned from the globe as well. Um, but I mean,
Here's
there's just too much against
here's the grid thing. Here's the grid thing I wanted to show everybody too, though. You see, look at the sky. See how it's got the grid pattern in the sky, talking about the
it.
simulation, you know, and how basically humanity is pretty much simulated too, and all the products through materialistic ways are manufactured too. So everything literally could be manufactured part of a simulation. Okay, there's nothing stating that it is actually exact and legitimate. Then you have the Schumann resonance, which is this. Okay, the Schumann resonance, which is usually what 7.8 or 7.68 hertz, I believe, something like that, is now up in the 190s. Okay, so either Earth is starting to wake up and become alive, or it's self-destructing. One of the two.
Yeah. I wanted to hit this point because I believe it you 100%. Because if you study the ancient Aztec manuscripts, they talk about they came from their motherland called Azteca. If you follow the Corn Belt, which we call it Corn Belt nowadays, it was maize back then, but we'll use modern terms. If you follow the Corn Belt, where does it lead from? Utah, all the way down into South America. And we know the Aztec were very, very prized of their corn. They worship corn. So if you follow that path, it literally leads from the Utah area down into South America. So whenever they left, I think part of them probably assimilated with the Mayans, and the rest of them were back to their motherland, which was Azteca, which is found in.
Well, what I want AI to do for me is to compare a picture of what we call the demiurge, okay, to a picture of Quetzalcoatl.
I can show you that
Okay,
real quick.
if anybody knows anything about Aztec history, they'll know who Quetzalcoatl is. Okay, same exact figure.
Jesus Payon Jr. and I both believe the same thing, that Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan was the same thing. It was just known by a different name because it was two different entities talking about it.
And
When I showed
but
the
both
dragon,
names Yeah, both names though mean winged serpent. So
oh, here it is. Ursa wants to know, where did the Sumerians go? They disappeared, as well as those from. Go look at. I can never say that name, but yeah, that place. I think
go.
some of them probably died out, and some of them assimilated into a different tribe. That's just my belief.
I don't think the Sumerians actually. I think honestly, um, if you think about history, there's so much that has been withheld to say, and so much being misinterpreted by theologians and scientists and stuff over the years, that the narrative's been changed so much. And I liken the Sumerian culture to the Mesopotamian culture, the cultures of the Hebrew people, the Israelis, the Palestinians. You know how those cultures are still around, but these other cultures like the Anasazi have disappeared, and all that. I do believe that some of the bloodline could have gone into other societies of humanity, whether it's Egyptian, whether it's Norse, whether it's Chinese, Russian, it doesn't matter. I think we all have a genetic makeup that makes us all pretty much cousins to one another, even though our skins are different, which people need to get beyond that crap. Okay. Need to get way beyond that crap. Skin color has nothing to do with what's on the inside of somebody. Okay. Plain and simple. All right. So I think that it's kind of like the Atlantis scenario where it just disappeared. Where did Atlantis go? Where did the population of Atlantis go? Okay. Did they inhabit the Caribbean? Did they inhabit Bermuda, the Isle of Bermuda? Is that part of the Atlantean bloodline? Okay. Or is Atlantis the reason it disappeared, the reason we're seeing USOs come out of the water? Could they just have relocated because humanity was so fucked up at the time? Think about it.
Yeah. To everybody that's heading out, good night. Thank you for coming in. Don't want you to think we forgot you. I know I'm behind on the chat because I'm trying to get to the questions. So everybody that's headed out, good night. Peace, love, and blessings to every single one of you all. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, we're getting ready to shut this down too because it's been over 2 hours now and it's awful late and I don't want to be up all night. But let's get to a couple more questions and then we'll cover this Sunday morning some more. I want Carl to know we'll be bringing Carl on Sunday to talk about his angel encounters and stuff for the Sunday morning show. Saturday is going to be up in the air whether I can, after tonight, can get into Saturday getting up and after researching tonight.
Sunday, I won't be able to be here. I've got important things I've got to go to, get set up for a fundraiser and our a national rally. So Sunday, I'm booked. We'll have to miss Sunday's morning show.
All right.
Oh, well, I should be back in time for my evening show, but Sunday, I'm hammered. From the time I get up until hopefully my show, I'm hammered.
Now,
Roxanne,
to answer Roxanne's question, I don't recall them being considered tall people. Back then, I mean, tall was 5'11". I mean, that's just tall people back then. But there was a race of native people on the East Coast where the Rockefellers built their mansion Okay. On an island, on a certain island that used to sacrifice normal sized humans. This race of people were considered giants in those days. They were 7 to 10 feet tall, and they lived on an island there on the East Coast, off of the coast of the Carolinas, as a matter of fact, where Rockefellers built their dynasty headquarters. So, could they have been related to the Anastasi? That's very well possible, but I don't think the Anastasi were 7 to 10 feet tall. I think a lot of people are confusing that, because when you go through the Anastasi ruins, you're not entering doorways that are 7 to 10 feet tall. You're entering doorways that are like 5 feet tall. So,
Hell yeah, Dan. Sorry, I was reading some of these comments, seeing if we got another question. Now there's a guy I love to watch. He's called the Navajo. Oh my gosh, Navajo. Dang it, I am going to butcher that because I want to. Let me look this up. I'm gonna have to exit out of the screen over here, so I won't be able to comment just yet. Navajo teachings, I believe, is what it's called. He's an old Navajo. Why is it not showing me what I want? Let me look it up. I'll know it since I can see, and I haven't had a chance to watch any of his lately. Okay.
Navajo traditions.
Yeah. Now he says the Anasazi were a little tall, but not like massively big. They're just like a little bit taller, but they were extremely aggressive, and they tried to make them think that they were the gods. Yep, Navajo traditions. That's it. Yeah. But if I remember correctly, because I remember he talks about the Anasazi a lot, and he says that they were a little bit taller, but the main thing with them, they were aggressive.
Yeah, they were like 5'11", 6 foot tall. They weren't 7 to 10 foot tall like giants, like we would consider giants. But yeah, I would imagine. But the doorways that they use in the Anastasi ruins are anywhere from 5 foot tall to just 6 foot tall. So that tells you right there, they weren't overly large. They were just large, larger than the average. So,
Dan, I absolutely have no idea. I've never heard of that before. So that is interesting.
What's that? Were the Sumerians the race that were sacrificed to open old tech portals?
Lone Wolf was a fiction thought. I've heard that book, but it's just that they're sacrificed. I've never heard that.
Well, when you're getting into all that type of stuff, Dan, you're getting into the whole mystical part of the Nazis, which was, the SS were the enforcers, but the hold on. The Vril Society is where that connection is made. Okay. I'm just answering somebody in my head that asked that wanted me to say that. The Vril Society is where that connection is made to the blood sacrifices and stuff because of the Sumerians race. But at the same time, the Sumerians were considered one, it's kind of opposite of what some of the minor Anunnakis were considered. How it talks about how they were 2/3 God and 1/3 human. With the Sumerians, they were considered 1/3 God and 2/3 human. So they had the small part of that ancient, Anunnaki bloodline in them, which made them basically sacrificial lambs, is what that is. So yes, I can see that actually happening, but is there proof that it happened? I haven't found any unconditional proof, but it's very possible.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see here. Miriam wants to know who were the people who lived in Arizona. That'd
Oh
have
God,
been
you got the
Navajo.
Hopi, you got the Navajo, you got the Chiricahua Apache. You got literally. I mean, it's endless. It really is. Arizona was a very, very prominent state, especially the Four
Mhm.
Corners area.
Yeah. Yeah. It's they that yeah, they had a lot. I even think some of the Sioux tribes had ventured up there at one time, if memory serves me correctly. Not for very long. I think just went over there, probably for rendezvous or something. But yeah, there's been a lot of. But yeah, the Dene, which a lot of tribes assimilated into the Dene. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Didn't the Pueblo even at one time assimilate into the Dene?
The Pueblo are still around, actually.
Yeah, but didn't they become part of the Dene? Because I know a lot of tribes came in, especially during the Anasazi time, came
Well,
into
they're
the.
all cousins. Yeah, they're all cousins. I mean, you can't have too many tribes that closely together in one state without having bloodlines intermixed. So they're all cousins, distant
That's
cousins
what
to
I
one
thought.
another, unless they were warring factions against each other over land rights or hunting grounds or whatnot, or burial grounds. So,
Mhm.
but yeah.
All right, I think we got all the questions. Well, I did get caught up into comments. Tell a bunch of people. Yeah, I think we got caught up on the questions at least.
All right. Well, with that being said, I'm I'm debating on whether to come on tomorrow morning. If I do, I'll let you know, Eric, in the morning. Um, but Sunday, I'm definitely coming on, and I'm going to see about getting Carl to come on and talk about his angel encounters and stuff. So that ought to be a good one Sunday. Um, Short of that, just look for the regular routine, and
Hmm.
like I always say, guys got to question everything. Eric, why don't you go ahead and tell them what you got going on, and
Uh,
then we're going to go ahead and cut it short.
so tomorrow I will be doing campfire chats. That's a safe place for you to come and share your encounters. You want to come on live? I'll bring you on live. You just want to talk about it? Chat. We can just talk about it in chat. Sunday, I just forgot how to pronounce it. It's a new vampire that I ain't never heard about. The Nazar. Uh, I'm looking at doing one on that. I was going to do some research on her diet, but I got caught up with a lot of stuff, especially with this new book that popped in my head. That I was trying to get it out so I didn't lose it. Which I made a song and artwork for it. Book cover's already made. Got to do some tweaking to the book cover, but it is made. And a song's made for it as well. That's available on all my platforms as well for you to check out. Um, so right now it's called the Skuggy Ulfr, which means shadow wolf in Old Norse, and it's about a military, a off the books special ops ghost unit that goes run and hunts all the different types of very evil. We had giants, 10 foot. Yeah, and Koshinli. I hope I said that right. So please forgive me if I messed that up. Yeah, there was giants. Giants range from 7 foot and up. I mean, they were ones that are miles tall. That, like Wayne was talking about earlier, that's called cloud eaters. There was giants pre the fallen angels, and then the the Watchers mated with the human women, and that's why they lost the ability to go back to heaven. We're cursed to remain here, chained to earth for all times, because they created the new version of the Nephilim. There was Nephilim at old. Nephilim is Hebrew for giant, so a lot of people get that mixed up. That's actually Hebrew for giant. So there was giants per the ones that we call Nephilim nowadays, and there's still giants out to this day. And I know in Kandahar, you got the red hair giants, deals out there. We've got them here. And in fact, the Pueblo burnt a bunch of them alive in a cave, in Lovelock Cave, just a couple hundred years ago. But there's still sightings of this stuff to this day, all around the world. It's just not just here in the United States, not just in Kandahar, but all over the world. I mean, even there's stories from World War II, the Japanese get annihilated by multiple headed giants and stuff like that in the center of the island of, oh my God, what was that? I forgot that island. I actually got a picture of a mummified giant from that island too. But anyways, that happened too. So I mean, there's still, I mean, throughout times, even in the Bible, and in a lot of your ancient texts, talks about some of the giants did survive the flood, and I think that's why we still have giant sightings. Yeah. So yes, that is a very common. Actually, I've got paperwork, the photos from my good friend Jesus Payon Jr., the actor, from hidden spots in the pyramids. It has giants building the pyramids, and that came straight from the hieroglyphs in the pyramids. And I've got those on here. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So, yeah, I got that going on
All right, everybody.
this weekend. So we got a lot of newcomers in here today. I appreciate all you new people for coming in. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you're at. Stay safe. And remember to question everything, all right? Please question everything, because you have that right. So, blessings, everybody.
As always, peace, love, and blessings.
Through the mist we rise, a force unbroken, with banners high and hearts awoken. The sound of pipes, our war is calling. Like thunderous waves, our duty is falling. Stand tall, together we fight, with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity our hearts shall sing, the legacy of warriors through every reign. With battle cries we forge our fate, in fields of valor we elevate. As shadows loom, our spirits gleam. Brothers in arms, we are the dream. Fearless, we take the night, with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity, our hearts shall sing, the legacy of warriors. breaks, we know our name.